What if I told you there was a bowler who played international cricket for over 18 long years and still walked away with an economy rate of just 1.98? Sounds impossible, right? Now, when you think of the great West Indian bowling attacks, certain names hit you instantly. Garner Marshall holding Roberts, pace, fire, terror. But a decade before any of them arrived, there was one man doing something completely different. Not sprinting in from 30 yards, not aiming at rib cages. He was just spinning the ball over and over and over. And somehow, he strangled batsmen just as effectively as the quicks who came after him. His name was Lance Gibbs. And by the end of this video, you are going to wonder why he isn't spoken about in the same breath as the fast bowling legends who followed him. Lance Gibbs was born in Georgetown, Guyana on September 29, 1934. Now, Guyana has always had a reputation. Producing fast bowlers is basically the family business. So a spinner emerging from there? That's like a fisherman's son growing up to become a chess grandmaster. Unexpected to say the least. And at just 14, Gibbs showed up at the Demerara Cricket Club and essentially said, "I'm here, deal with it." And deal with him they did. Because this kid worked harder than anyone else. First one at practice, last one to leave. Not the most talented kid in the room, but easily the most relentless. Oh, one more thing. Gibbs didn't even start as an off spinner. He began as a leg spinner. But he couldn't quite control it. So, on the advice of former England player Arthur McIntyre, he switched to off spin. And that one piece of advice, it changed cricket history. And after piling up performances in first class cricket, the door to international cricket finally opened. Gibbs made his test debut against Pakistan in Port of Spain back in February 1958. He picked up 4 wickets in the match, a solid, if unspectacular start. But by the end of that very first series, he had 17 wickets in just 4 matches and topped the bowling averages with a stunning 23.05. Not bad for a rookie, right? But then came his golden era, the early 1960s. In 1961, West Indies toured Australia, a country that has always eaten visiting spinners for breakfast. So it's no surprise Gibbs was left out for the first 2 tests. But once he got his chance, in the final 3, he took 19 wickets at 20.78. The following home series against India in 1961-62 was even better. 24 wickets at a jaw-dropping 20.41 across 5 tests. And when West Indies toured England in 1963, he topped that too. 26 wickets at 20.3, including 5 for 59 and 6 for 98 at Manchester. At this point, opposition batsmen weren't just facing a bowler, they were facing a pattern they couldn't escape. So, how did he actually do all of this? What was the magic trick? Well, Gibbs had long, slender fingers, the kind you would expect on a pianist or an artist, not a bowler. And in a way, he was an artist of guile, who made batsmen dance to the tune of his fingertips. And bowling from a tall height, Gibbs could extract bounce from pitches that had absolutely nothing to offer anyone else. His fingers gave the ball a vicious tweak, and this is the scary part. He could control exactly how much it turned, whenever he wanted. One ball spins a mile, the next barely moves. Total psychological warfare. And all of this came from a chest-on action, which was unusual even by the standards of his era. But here's the part that should genuinely hurt to hear. Gibbs bowled through a permanently sore finger. And when the tip got too bloodied and painful to use, he would simply adjust and spin the ball from further down the same finger. Let that sink in. The man's finger was literally splitting open, and his solution was to just find another part of it to keep bowling with. That's not talent, that's borderline insanity, the good kind. Now let's talk numbers, because this is where Lance Gibbs stops sounding like a very good bowler and starts sounding like a statistical glitch. 309 wickets, 79 tests, an average of 29.09. But here's the number that should really stop you. An economy rate of 1.98 across an 18-year career. under 2 runs and over for nearly 2 decades. He was, without exaggeration, one of the most miserly bowlers the game has ever seen. And in 1972, Wisden named him Cricketer of the Year. And here's the kicker. Gibbs averaged around 57 overs per test throughout his career. That workload makes him the 5th most overworked bowler in the history of the sport. Captains did not just use him, they leaned on him, over after over after over, because they knew, even when nothing else was working, Gibbs would not give runs away easily. So, how good was Lance Gibbs? Good enough that decades before Warne, before Murli, a quiet off spinner from Guyana was already rewriting what control could look like. Good enough that even in a lineup remembered for pace and fear, he built a legacy on patience, precision, and pain he simply refused to talk about. So the next time someone tells you West Indies cricket has only ever been about fast bowling, you tell them about the man with the split finger and the 1.98 economy rate. You tell them about Lance Gibbs.